the heart of New Jersey's Piedmont region, where rolling hills meet vibrant woodlands. A charming array of bird boxes dot the landscape like colorful sentinels of nature. From the cheerful chirps of bluebirds to the sweet songs of chickadees, these boxes become bustling nurseries, nurturing the next generation of avian wonders.
There are a lot of birds that use nest boxes or artificial structures, and not all nest boxes look alike. And behind me is an artificial chimney, and that's for chimney swifts. Now, chimney swifts are seriously declining. They've lost almost 70% of their population in North America since 1970. There are a number of factors. One is definitely loss of nesting habitat. That's a limiting factor, which means the population can't grow if they don't have enough places to nest. And they're also a migratory species. So there's a lot going on, but what we can do here is to help create these artificial nest boxes for them so that they have places to nest and allow the population to increase. Most of the cavity birds that we know of either nest in cavities in natural trees or in nest boxes. And so bluebirds are the most popular of the nest boxes that we put up, and it's been a huge success. European starlings came and got really numerous and started competing with bluebirds and other birds for the nest boxes. And when we figured out how to deter starlings from nesting in there, which is to shrink the size of the cavity in the nest box, bluebirds really took off. And it's a huge success story. They are increasing nationwide, they're increasing in New Jersey. Unfortunately, not all cavity nesting birds are responding as positively as bluebirds, but nest boxes will definitely help with that. Purple martins are another species that's declining in New Jersey and in the Northeast, and they need artificial nest boxes. They nest in groups, and so it's not a traditional nest box like you would think for a bluebird, and it's not like a chimney swift. In the past, like historically, Native American tribes would hang up their empty gourds with cavities in it, and that helped perpetuate the purple martin. So there is this kind of caring relationship between humans and these birds for thousands of years. Piedmont is a great mix of habitats. And so for species that love forest edges or that kind of interface between fields and forests or agriculture and forest, the Piedmont is great for that. And because of that, Piedmont is really, really important as a migratory stopover habitat for a lot of forest birds. And that's in terms of diversity of bird species and abundance. And the amount of shrubs and forest edges, it's really a great place for these birds to stop over during migration.
We're here to ban the Kestrel nest box behind us. This is a pretty successful season for them in New Jersey. We have about 250 boxes between ones that ENSP put up over the years and partners with Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space, Natural Lands in South Jersey, and Raritan Headwaters further north. We also work with a lot of the county folks, and we're right now on a wildlife management area. And so this is one of 125 nest boxes out of that 250 that have been active this season. Today, we're going to ban the chicks in the box. They should be somewhere around 16 to 20 days old. We like to ban them at that age. They're most likely to attempt fledging the box, and so we're not putting bans on birds that not make it to fledging. This age, we pretty much just pull them out and weigh them, put a band on them, and then tell the sex of them. By about the 12th, 13th day, they have enough plumage coming from their flight feathers and their tail that are erupting that you can tell them apart by the different colorations. Males have slate gray and black banding, and then the females have brown and black banding. We should have somewhere around 400 chicks for the season. That'll be a record for the season, over 100 successful boxes.
It's been so much fun, and then we've done a lot with the posts.
Without volunteers, a lot of what ENSP does would not run, but I can definitely say with certainty that this project would not be as successful. The ENSP has about 100-ish boxes that we monitor. Friends of Hopewell Valley have another 50, Raritan Headwaters has another 40 plus, and Steve Eisenhower with Natural Lands has around 70 in Salem, Cumberland, and a little bit in Gloucester County. So without those partnerships, without having the volunteers behind right now that are the folks that monitor the box through the season, and they're able to tell me when there's activity, then I can come out and try and catch the adults, get a beat on like how many eggs they lay, how where they are in incubation. It's just a lot of ground. I have boxes from Milford over towards Bedminster and all the way into Burlington County, and I'm coming from Gloucester County, so It's an hour-plus drive for me to get to the southern end of this study area. So without having people on the ground being able to give me all that intel, I really wouldn't be able to manage a project of this size. So it's through the years, almost everything that the Kestrel project runs on is volunteer driven, from the supplies to the management to the monitoring.
Deep within the heart of New Jersey lies a captivating expanse known as the Pine Barrens, a sprawling wilderness where towering pines stretch skyward, covering over 1 million acres with winding wooded trails for the public to enjoy. This enchanting landscape is a mosaic of sandy soils, crystal clear streams, and vibrant ecosystems that are teeming with life.
We're here at Whiting Wildlife Management Area, which is in Whiting, New Jersey. The WWAMA is surrounded by communities, and we're trying to protect those communities in case of a wildfire. We did a natural resource stewardship plan. It was a collaborative effort with New Jersey Forest Service and New Jersey Forest Fire. It was a way to do management within the wildlife management area for threatened and endangered species, as well as game animals. But one of the most important things was to create fire break that would protect the Crestwood Village. So we created a wild urban interface that would protect the homes. Turkey season will be picking up, so I'm sure people are out scouting for turkeys. People can hike on the wildlife management area. There's a pond that has a pretty good population of pickerel. So you can see on the right here, this is what the forest used to look like. And then on the left, this is within the wild urban interface. So we've done prescriptions to remove all the ladder fuels. So if a fire did come through the WWAMA, this area would be protected.
Today we're doing a prescribed fire here between two Firewise communities in Barnegat Township. It's a good time of the year to get out here, try to reduce the fuels. We're doing a low and slow burn, make it look a park-like setting. So our objective is to reduce the hazardous fuels on the ground and also reintroduce fire into this landscape.
Right now, we're using our drip torches to bring the fire up this line right here. We're trying to carry this fire along low and slow.
So prescribed burn is going to protect this community by reducing the fuel loading. We've seen it time and time again through fires. Kind of creates a catcher's mitt around the community. So if a fire comes, it'll stop.
Some other benefits of prescribed burning are reducing tick populations, enhancing wildlife habitat, and improving the overall structure of the forest.
Firewise community is a community that is involved in a national program to educate the community about wildfire safety. We do annual education days, we do meetings, talk about projects we can do, and this was one of the projects that we've been trying to get to for a few years, but Mother Nature finally let us have it. The prescribed fire we're doing today is in a historic fire shed. This area has been burned many times by many large wildfires. By conducting this hazard reduction project today, we will reduce the threat of wildfire to these homes.
You can find out more about prescribed burning or Firewise communities by visiting njwildfire.org.
Flowing like a lifeline through the heart of New Jersey, the Delaware River is a stunning corridor of natural beauty. Nestled between New Jersey and Pennsylvania, the river meanders through charming towns and vibrant communities weaving tales of history and adventure. Along its 300 miles, the river offers sanctuary to an abundance of wildlife. Every day, New Jersey fish and wildlife conservation police officers embark on their daily patrols, navigating the river's winding paths to protect this vital ecosystem. The Delaware River emerges not only as a picturesque landscape, but also as a testament to the ongoing commitment to preserve its integrity for generations to come.
The Silty pond mussel, formerly known as the Chinese pond mussel, is one of the newer invasive species found in New Jersey that poses a significant threat to our native freshwater mussels and ecosystems. This mussel was first discovered in New Jersey in around 2010 when a former aquaculture and fish farm facility was purchased for land preservation. When the property was purchased, it was found that there were still several species of non-native carp present in the impoundments there. So in the process of looking to control the non-native carp, a large population of unidentified freshwater mussels was documented at the site. The state began looking into what species they were, trying to identify them, and they were found to be the Silty pond mussel that is native to Asia. They can grow to large size, about the size of a Nerf football, and get to high densities. Like a great many other invasive species, they're very good at what they do. They can outcompete all the native organisms in the environment. And what happens when they get to high densities like that, they actually alter the water chemistry. They remove all the nutrients in the water environment. So they outcompete the native species for space and for nutrients. The problem with this occurrence in New Jersey is that this is the only occurrence of this invasive species in the entire North America. And we want to keep it contained to where it is and hopefully eradicate it. So we're doing surveys throughout the Wikichioki drainage that was documented in it, as well as any other waterways that may be impacted, such as the DNR Canal, the Delaware River, or the Raritan River, to try and document if the species is in other places. We're working really hard to try and control that in New Jersey and doing a lot of research related to it.
My name is Heather Desko. I am a Senior Watershed Protection Specialist with the New Jersey Water Supply Authority, where I manage our aquatic invasive species management projects. The Delaware and Raritan Canal that we're standing on today is one of our actual water supply infrastructure here in New Jersey. And today we are sampling for the invasive Chinese pond mussel, and we are using this technique, which is a relatively new and rapidly evolving technique, to monitor for DNA in a water sample. So we're taking water through a filter that then can get sent back to a lab to be analyzed for the DNA of that species specifically. So just the Chinese pond mussel is what we can look for with that DNA.
The effort to determine the spread of Chinese pond mussel has involved the use of environmental DNA. The eDNA has come back positive for Chinese pond mussel, and so the next step in determining whether the Chinese pond mussel is here is to do a physical survey. And so we have a mussel crew out on the water, scuba and snorkeling, to see if they can find any Chinese pond mussel individuals. The survey crew has found a number of interesting species here that we weren't necessarily expecting. A few state-listed species that they found are the tidewater mucket, triangle floater, and creeper. And so it's really good to know that they're here, because then we can manage for them and help have a better understanding of their distribution. For the mussels that have been found out here, we've been taking some genetic swab samples. Those are preserved in ethanol and transported to the lab at Rutgers, at which point their lab staff will be doing sequencing on them to determine what species we have, and they'll be able to identify them that way.
eDNA, or environmental DNA, is genetic material left behind in the environment from animals, typically from food, waste products, just as they're moving around their environment. And so what we do here is we work to go out and we collect that DNA, whether by concentrating it from water or taking it off of surfaces and then concentrating it onto a filter. And then we take that filter, work to extract the DNA, isolate it, and then we use a series of tests or assays to detect a specific organism by looking for a DNA sequence that is unique to that organism. We can effectively sample a large area at a time, collecting samples several kilometers apart downriver, and then we can bring those samples back, and within about a week or so, we can work to extract and do the qPCR testing of those samples, and then we can essentially see which of those sites lit up, and then we can follow up with, say, divers or physical surveys to confirm whether or not Chinese pond mussel could be found at those sites.
No one worldwide has been able to eradicate this species. It has a life history that makes it very difficult for eradication to happen. We're really the first ones to have a chance to do it. Connection with the New Jersey Conservation Foundation formed during the pandemic, and they contacted me directly asking if we could develop an environmental DNA approach to their efforts to confirm that Chinese pond mussel was in fact eradicated from their ponds on their land. Mussels are difficult to deal with in terms of their environmental DNA surveys. They just have a life history and a genetic architecture that makes it difficult to develop these assays. And so the fact that we've been as successful as we have been is very encouraging, and I think speaks well of what we're capable of doing for the state.
This Chinese pond mussel, if it was to escape this sanctuary and in a flood make it into the Delaware River or Delaware and Raritan Canal, they could simply get everywhere. They have a larval stage that is on the gills of fish. The larvae are called glochidia. They attach to the gills of the fish, and that's probably how they got here on the Asian fish that were being imported. And one of the reasons that makes them so invasive is that when they attach to a native fish, as soon as their larval glochidia attach to that fish's gills, there's a reaction by that fish, and none of the native mussels, none of their glochidia will attach to that fish anymore. So they not only take over the substrate, use up the food supply as adults, but they also wipe out the host fish so that native mussels don't have anybody to use in their life cycle, which is the most damaging thing of all. So it's 2024, and now we have a much more elaborately designed project to treat all the ponds. The chemical has actually been modified specifically for mussels, and there's been some experience with it. And so we think now that hopefully we'll make sure that we finally rid the system of this population of Chinese pond mussel.
It's really important for us to document everything that we're doing at this site from a scientific point of view and from an educational point of view. Ultimately, we want to make sure that this species doesn't spread anywhere out throughout New Jersey or really in the United States or continent. So we're looking here to share what it is, what it looks like, and how folks can identify it. That way, if it is discovered in other places, we can work quickly to eradicate this species.
This partnership is great. Everybody's working together. Everybody understands the severity of the problem, including Jersey DEP, which, that's very important to make sure that everything we do here doesn't cause any unintended consequences to any other natural resources. So it's a big project. We have tremendous cooperation on the part of everybody.
Nestled between the shores of Delaware and New Jersey, the Delaware Bay is a shimmering expanse of water where the Delaware River meets the Atlantic Ocean. Each year, this serene estuary transforms into a bustling haven for avian travelers who journey thousands of miles to find refuge along its shores. The Delaware Bay is not just a body of water, it is a living testament to the intricate dance between land and sea.
Welcome to the Delaware Bay. This is one of the most important migratory shorebird stopovers in the Western Hemisphere. Many species migrate through the Delaware Bay each spring, including red knots, ruddy turnstones, sanderling, dunlin, a variety of sandpipers, plovers, and yellowlegs. The Delaware Bay is also the epicenter of horseshoe crab spawning along the Atlantic coast. Crabs range from the Bay of Fundy in Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Not only is the Delaware Bay important because of its central location along the Atlantic coast, but it also has a very favorable topography. It's very shallow and easy for crabs to make their way into spawning beaches. Healthy shorelines with intact tidal marshes provide buffering from storms by holding back some of the water and slowing the rate of water that enters streams and rivers, not to mention the importance of water quality and groundwater recharge. Many species of birds, mammals, and turtles rely on wetlands for food, shelter, and nesting habitats. These areas provide important nursery grounds for a wide range of species of fish and invertebrates, both aquatic and terrestrial. Red knots have one of the longest known migrations in the animal kingdom. Around a third of the Atlantic coast population winters in Tierra del Fuego, near the southernmost tip of South America, and migrates to the Arctic upland tundra to breed. About half to 3/4 of all roofa red knots congregate in the Delaware Bay to feed and rest in any given spring. Knots are primarily bivalve feeders. Their diet consists of small clams and blue mussel spat. However, when they come to the bay, they switch almost exclusively to feeding on horseshoe crab eggs. This occurs because knots have special adaptations for long-distance migration. They have streamlined bodies with hollow bones for better aerodynamics. Their blood has a high concentration of red blood cells, and they can uptake about 25% more oxygen with each breath than most mammals. They're also able to grow and shrink their organs. So when they get to migratory staging areas, they need a fat-rich, easily digestible food source so they can pack on weight quickly for their journey to the Arctic. New Jersey Fish and Wildlife protects important feeding and roosting beaches with a seasonal restriction from May 7th to June 7th. Also, there's been a moratorium on crab harvest in New Jersey since 2008. Shorebird banding, resighting, and aerial surveys are conducted on the bay each year. The Delaware Bay is a magnificent location for these migratory shorebirds and an amazing spectacle to witness every spring.
Crabs, Limulus polyphemus, they've been around for over 400 million years and are actually more closely related to spiders and scorpions than they are crabs. Here in New Jersey, we're home to one of the world's largest populations for spawning here in Delaware Bay. Horseshoe crabs typically spend their adult lives offshore in deeper waters or in estuaries. When it comes time to spawn in early spring and summer, they like to come to Delaware Bay to different beaches such as Fortescue to lay their eggs. Here they will lay their eggs all across the beaches, and females can lay anywhere up to 160,000 eggs in one breeding season. After laying their eggs, adults go back into the water and go back to their deeper estuarine environments, and juveniles will spend 1 to 2 years in these nearshore waters in Delaware Bay before heading back offshore. Horseshoe crabs are super important for our wildlife because their eggs act as a fueling source for lots of migratory birds such as red knot. Here in Fish and Wildlife, the Marine Resources Administration partakes in a horseshoe crab survey in the early summer months of May and June. The survey, we will walk the beaches at night during peak high tide, and we will roll our quadrats down, and then we would quantify the number of males and females in each quadrat. New Jersey Fish and Wildlife is only one of many partners who work to gather the spawning data here in Delaware Bay. Typically, Fortescue is only one of 20 to 24 beaches that are sampled each year. The total number of beaches sampled changes yearly due to habitat loss and climate change. We work with partners all across New Jersey, including Delaware Fish and Wildlife, Adventure Aquarium, the Wetlands Institute, and the Nature Conservancy. If the public's looking to help out on this survey, you can always look to contact the Wetlands Institute to assist on the Delaware Bay spawning survey and be in charge of your own monitoring of a beach, just like New Jersey Fish and Wildlife.
The Delaware Bay is New Jersey's largest estuary system. It is a semi-enclosed body of water on the southwestern coast of New Jersey where freshwater from the Delaware River mixes with saltwater from the Atlantic Ocean. It serves as spawning and feeding grounds, nursery areas, and migratory routes for many important recreational and commercial fish and invertebrates such as striped bass, weakfish, American shad, and blue crab.
Right behind me is our 46-foot research vessel, the James W. Joseph, operated by the Marine Resources Administration staff for our Delaware Bay Trawl Survey. The survey initially started as a blue crab survey within the shallow nearshore waters on the New Jersey side of Delaware Bay in 1980 and continued until 1986. In 1991, the survey was reinstituted as a juvenile finfish survey through funding from the WildPro Federal Aid to Fisheries funds administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The survey was designed to target residential or transient juvenile finfish species that inhabit the bay, mirroring a similar study being conducted by the State of Delaware's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Sampling stations were selected in shallow nearshore waters preferred by many developing larval and juvenile fishes. Data collected from this survey provides timely and accurate estimates of relative annual abundance to resource managers, which is necessary to protect future fishery trends and harvest potential.
Since 1997, 11 nearshore stations have been sampled from the Cohansey River in the Upper Bay, extending down to the Bills in the Lower Bay. Sampling is performed over shallow shoals, as this typically yields larger catches and greater species diversity than tows in deeper water. Sampling is performed once a month from April through October at each of the 11 stations within the bay, for a yearly total of 77 tows. A 16-foot otter trawl is towed for 10 minutes at each station behind the RV James Joseph. When underwater, the otter trawl lead line remains in contact with the bay floor, while the float line buoys the top of the net and keeps it open vertically. While the trawl net is being towed, it funnels the catch into the rearmost section of the net, called the cod end, which is made of small mesh, where the fish are eventually collected and hauled onto deck.
At the end of each 10-minute tow, the net is retrieved by hand and the cod end is emptied onto a sorting table. All fish collected are identified to the lowest possible taxonomic level, enumerated, and measured. Blue crabs and horseshoe crabs are two invertebrate species also sampled in the same manner, with the addition of collecting sex data for each individual. When larger numbers of a single species are taken, 50 individuals are randomly selected and measured, and the remaining individuals counted for a total catch. Lengths are measured in millimeters using fork lengths by measuring from the tip of the nose to inside the fork of the tail for species such as bay anchovy, and total lengths are used for species without forked tails such as the Atlantic croaker. Larval individuals that are unidentifiable in the field are kept and identified post-sampling in the laboratory. Annual relative abundance for all species combined and for each single species is calculated as the total number of individual fish collected over the total number of tows for each sampling year, also known as catch per tow. This same analysis is also conducted on each species by month and by station.
Estuaries provide critical habitat at some life stages for most common sport and commercial fishes of the Atlantic coast. They serve as nursery areas, wintering and summering areas, spawning grounds, and migratory pathways for many fishes of recreational and commercial importance. The success of a fishery will be contingent upon the survival of the early life stages and eventual recruitment into the adult populations. Therefore, effective management strategies are keyed to timely and accurate assessments of the annual reproductive success of a species, as demonstrated by the status of its juvenile stocks. These assessments can provide resource managers with a means to measure annual recruitment and make predictions as trends and future harvest potential for a particular stock. Much appreciation is extended to the many employees within the Marine Resources Administration who assisted with sample collection throughout the seasons.
Welcome to the Atlantic coast of New Jersey, where the rhythmic lullaby of the ocean meets the vibrant pulse of seaside towns. Stretching over 130 miles, this captivating coastline is a tapestry woven with golden sandy beaches, charming boardwalks, flavorful local cuisine, and the salty breeze that whispers tales of adventure and nostalgia. Along these sun-kissed shores, a vibrant tapestry of life unfolds. Here, thousands of migratory beach nesting birds find sanctuary among these coastal marshes and windswept dunes. In this enchanting realm, the Atlantic coast of New Jersey becomes not just a destination, but a living testament to the resilience and wonder of migratory birds.
The little low guy. So here in New Jersey, we're very lucky to have a large number of beach nesting birds. So those birds are the ones that sound just like the species name group. They are literally nesting on the beach. And we're not talking about putting it high up, a tree that has a nest in it. These are laying their eggs directly on the sand. In our state, we are lucky enough to have the federally and state-listed piping plover. We have state-listed black skimmer. We have state-listed least tern. We also have species of special concern American oystercatcher, species of special concern common tern, and then we have royal terns, who are a little bit newer on our landscape. Now, they don't have a conservation status right now, but the very special thing about them in New Jersey is we have the furthest north colony in all of the Western Hemisphere. So we're really lucky to have all of these birds that make up our beach nesting bird group. What these birds are looking for are highly dynamic, sparsely vegetated areas of the beach. It can be extremely difficult for them in New Jersey because we've developed a lot of our coastlines. Humans have impacted the coastal system in ways that are great for us. We have so much fun, myself included, love living at the beach, recreating at the beach, having a good time here. But we've changed what these birds are looking for, which are systems that are constantly in flux, constantly being moved and shaped by the forces of the ocean, the wind, the tides. And that is why when you have areas that look like the beach behind me that are sparsely vegetated, they're flat, there's a lot of shell, this is just premier nesting habitat for some of these species. Another important feature are being near inlet systems. Inlets are incredibly important for the prey species that these birds are foraging off of, feeding their young. And so anytime you have an inlet system that has no stabilization, that is, there's no jetties, there's no groins on it, and you have habitat that looks like this, you can be sure the beach nesters will be trying to use that. One site in New Jersey I want to share and put a particular focus on is a site that we call Horseshoe Island. This is just offshore of the Little Egg Inlet, which is already an incredibly important place for all of these species. The thing that's so unusual about Horseshoe Island is that in a state as densely populated as New Jersey, and that is as developed as New Jersey, it's very rare that we get new habitat. We can sometimes get new habitat through restoration projects like our Barnegat Light project. Sometimes we get new habitat through storms, but to get an entirely new footprint of a spot is something that is pretty much unheard of in our state. We were very lucky that we got support right out of the gate to protect it and to make it a place for birds. And we are working with all of our partners to make sure that it stays as long as possible in that peak condition. So we know that Horseshoe Island in its current state won't stay the way that it is forever. We are clearly in the glory days of it, and we are going to hold on tight to that for as long as we can. At some point it will disappear, but for as long as it is there and for as long as those birds want to use it, we and all of our partners are going to do everything that we can to ensure that they have as much success as possible. So as you can imagine, it can be very difficult for these birds to carve out a living here. Not only do they have all of the natural elements to deal with, so all of those storms that come in, the flooding that comes in, but then they have the added layer of human disturbance. And that can come in the form of us as people, and then all the things that come along with us. Our pets, our dogs are on the beaches with us, our boats are here, our vehicles are here. All of these things can greatly impact a species that is literally laying its eggs right on the sand. So how are we helping them? At New Jersey Fish and Wildlife and all of our partners across the state, including National Park Service, the Nature Conservancy, the Fish and Wildlife Service, we are taking measures to try to reduce that impact that human can have on this landscape. So that can include things like fencing off the nesting area. You can see right behind me, there's a sign here that says area closed. That is just to help key people in to understand inside this fenced area there may be eggs or flightless chicks that are wandering around. So we're conducting research along with our partners of trying to better understand where and why are they picking exactly these locations and not other parts of the state. Where are the important migratory stopover sites? What is the most important areas for foraging? And are there things that we can do to try to help that? So the first thing that we need to do is track those birds, try to get an idea of who they are, where they are at, and the best way for us to do that right now is by putting bands on their legs. Now there's a lot of great technology out there, including satellite transmitters, telemetry. A lot of our birds are a little bit on the small side for that. We're heading down that way. We are putting, along with our partners at the Pinelands Intro, transmitters on black skimmers. They're one of our larger beach nesters to help us out. But for most of our birds, what we're doing is putting color bands on those birds. These are individual markers that if you're looking with binoculars or your telescope, you'll be able to tell exactly who that bird is. And then we add that information to our database to help us picture and get a larger picture about what these birds' needs are so we can better address them as a Fish and Wildlife agency. We often say that beach nesting bird management is a team sport. This is not the type of species that you can send 1 or 2 biologists out and no problem, everything's solved, the birds are protected. Instead, what we do, all of the agencies and the partners in this state hire a lot of seasonal technicians. Those folks are coming in and working typically from us for April through August. These are the folks you will see out on the sand day after day on the beaches. They're putting up the fencing, they're speaking with people, trying to do outreach, helping people understand the plight of these birds. Without those seasonals, we would not have a project. And every year we're so lucky to have the younger generation that's coming up in their conservation careers come join us. Adding to that is our volunteer corps. The volunteers play a critical role in helping fill in the gaps for our seasonal technicians. They also start to carry institutional knowledge. Often our seasonals will be with us for a season or 2 and then they're going to move on and progress in their careers. Our volunteers tend to be people who live in this area, they get very attached to these birds and they're here year after year. They are an incredible resource for our seasonals as those folks are coming up to speed and also for the community as a whole. It's really wonderful to have our volunteers be a voice for those birds and help echo the type of sentiments that we're trying to put forth as a Fish and Wildlife agency.
Hi, I'm Scott Stuber. I'm a senior fisheries biologist for New Jersey Fish and Wildlife's Marine Resources Administration. Today I'm here to provide a quick update on our shell recycling program, which collects discarded oyster and clam shells from Atlantic City restaurants and casinos. Traditionally, when oysters and clams are served at a restaurant, the discarded shell is placed in the trash and headed to the landfill. Shell recycling is a practice where restaurants save discarded shells from their seafood dishes. Each summer, our staff reuses the collected shell to enhance natural oyster reefs by providing the substrate they need to grow and succeed. This helps keep waste out of landfills, saves restaurants money, and benefits local oyster populations. Through continued efforts and partnerships, we have expanded our recycling program to include 8 restaurant partners and are on pace to collect over 100 tons of shell this year alone. In honor of National Seafood Month, we wanted to take a moment to recognize the real backbone of this program, our restaurant partners. These include Doc's Oyster House, Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, the Knife and Fork Inn, Borgata Casino, Golden Nugget Casino, Resorts Casino, Doherty's Steakhouse and Raw Bar, and the Tropicana Casino. Week in and week out, these venues take the time to separate shell from their normal waste stream and have demonstrated an unwavering commitment to helping their local environment. With that, I'll turn it over to some of our partners to give their thoughts on the shell recycling program.
We've been part of the shell recycling program for quite a while now, and I just found out that we're recycled 30 tons of shells this year alone, just at Doc's, which is an amazing number. If anybody out there is has oysters or clams on their menu, I fully encourage you to get involved in this program. The guys are great to deal with. They come and they collect. It's 100% a win. There's no downside in this.
It's a great program. It's an easy way to give back. It's a lot better than, just dumping your oysters and clamshells in the trash. It's going to a great cause. We're all looking to sustain an industry and be responsible about it. Probably one of the best ways to go about it.
100 tons. Think about what that means to the environment and our impact on it. It's an amazing amount. We're proud to partner with New Jersey Fish and Wildlife here at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. We're looking forward to more and making sure that we're saving the planet.
I think our customers appreciate the fact that we're trying to give back and support the environment. It should be a no-brainer, recycling your shells. Not only does it help oysters find new homes, but it reduces costs on waste.
As a new participant, we're just excited to see where this is going to take us and just how much we've already collected. Just like, it looks like every little bit helps. Everybody's on board. It's a good thing, It's like a win, like I said, for everybody.
I've been here 22 years, and this restaurant and this family, and from generation, the oyster has been taking good care of us, and now we got a program where we can take care of the oyster now. It's easy for us to participate in this program and give back what has been so good to us.
We've been doing this a long time. My great-grandfather opened up Doc's Oyster House in 1897. So I'm the 4th generation, and I can definitely say this is one of the best things we've done.
Whether they're small like a salamander, or big and wide-roaming like a bear, wildlife need to be able to move through the landscape to find food, shelter, and mates. All the things they need in life. Their movements can vary by season, or by the need to go somewhere new, like this young bobcat's long meandering journey to find a territory of his own. New Jersey has done an outstanding job protecting open space for people and nature. Nearly a third of the state is now preserved, thanks to proactive local governments and land trusts, our Green Acres program, farmland preservation, and the public, which has consistently voted in favor of open space funding. But that doesn't change the fact that we are the most densely populated state in the nation, and still growing. New Jersey is on track to reach build-out within the next few decades. The actions we take now will determine what our final landscape looks like, and how much room is left for wildlife to roam. And let's talk about roads. To help all of us busy people get around, we've crisscrossed the state with a dense road network. They're convenient for us, but for wildlife, roads are dangerous barriers that often stand in the way of reaching the things they need to survive. Millions of animals die every year trying to cross roads in the US, and in New Jersey, it's almost impossible to drive anywhere and not see dead animals lying on our roadways. Roadkill is a sad but familiar fact of life. A price for our own mobility. But for some species, roads can threaten the survival of entire populations. Put simply, as our wild lands get whittled away and wedged apart by urbanization and roads, so do our wild creatures. From these challenges, CHANJ was born. Connecting habitat across New Jersey is an effort to make our landscape and roadways friendlier to wildlife on the move, protecting important habitats, restoring corridors for movement, making roads safer to cross. These are our goals. Led by New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, CHANJ is made up of natural resource managers, transportation planners, conservationists, and researchers who have all come together to work toward a common vision of a connected landscape. And now, we have some tools to share. Our interactive map shows the most important core habitats across the state and the best opportunities to link them back together. And our guidance document presents a menu of actions for preserving critical lands, enhancing habitat, and designing effective projects to help wildlife traverse roads and other barriers. Animal species here and all across the globe are up against ever-growing pressures in our human-centered world. Throw climate change into the mix, and the ability for wildlife to move and adapt has never been more crucial. Here in New Jersey, we've got the tools. Let's give our wild animals every chance to find their way.
In New Jersey, we have some great wildlife success stories. The recovery of the osprey to their historic population size, the return of the peregrine falcon statewide, and the bald eagle that has rebounded from a single nest in the 1980s to over 250 nests today. These species would have been lost without the concerted efforts that resulted from the Endangered and Non-Game Species Conservation Act. Conservationists from New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, nonprofit organizations, DEP Green Acres land acquisition, and land use regulations that protect habitat, all of these fell into place because of New Jersey's Endangered Species Act. Since the program was initiated in 1973, the mission of the Endangered and Non-Game Species Program is to protect and conserve a diverse range of wildlife that are considered endangered, threatened, or species of special concern within the state, plus those that are considered secure. This conservation work is guided by species rarity and the New Jersey State Wildlife Action Plan, and made possible by the dedicated biologists who work tirelessly, boots on the ground, conducting research studies and collecting data in the field. The Endangered Species Program is really lucky to have a dedicated group of volunteers registered with the Wildlife Conservation Corps who assist on so many of our projects. They monitor bald eagle nests, osprey nests, colonial water birds. The Bald Eagle Project has over 130 volunteers. They monitor over 250 nests statewide for us, and they work all the way through the eagle nesting season, which is January through July. And that gives us so much information that puts us so far ahead of many other states that manage their bald eagle populations. We really know more about our bald eagles in New Jersey than almost anyone. And it's all because of a huge group of very skilled volunteers. I feel very lucky as Chief of the Endangered Species Program. I oversee a staff of extremely dedicated, very skilled biologists. They are all experts in their field, and they really work hard to accomplish conservation and move the needle for the species that they oversee. And they build partnerships that really make a difference to New Jersey's wildlife and New Jersey's habitats.
Not only are they hardworking, but they are experts in their field. Most of them have a specific species expertise. They work to identify threats to those species and also work to identify ways to remove threats to those species. When I started with New Jersey Fish and Wildlife over 20 years ago, I worked in the Endangered and Non-Game Species Program. I think we accomplished great things back then, and I think our staff continue to accomplish great things now.